Today on r/am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for telling my dad there will be no making up for missing my high school graduation? I'm an 18-year-old male graduating high school at the end of this month. My dad dropped the bomb on me 2 nights ago that his stepdaughter, 14 years old female, has an award ceremony for some competition she entered and won in another state on that same day, and that she really wants him to be there. He told me he couldn't possibly make it to both, and since his wife and their children together will be going, he needs to be there too. He told me he would make it up to me and we could celebrate another time. I still live with him, not for much longer. My mom died when I was 7, and my dad got married again when I was 11 or 12. It's been a few years anyway. His stepdaughter never knew her bio dad, so my dad has accepted her as his own. And he has prioritized her a lot in the last 5-6 years. It doesn't always show in the most obvious ways, but it can be felt. Father-son time was put on an indefinite hiatus, and instead Dad told me we needed to include her in our time together, but he also spent time with just her for father-daughter time. I brought it up to my dad, and he told me I wasn't exactly making an effort to be closer to her, so he wanted us all to bond and didn't want me to just focus on my relationship with him. He has attended her dance things instead of my basketball games if they're on at the same time. It doesn't matter if mine was known about first, he will still skip my stuff to go to hers. He will take us on family days, and whenever he and his wife say kids can choose, he picks her choices over mine. He claims it's because they will be the most fun for everyone, but really, he even says it afterward, anything his little princess wants. Our refrigerator and our shower broke at the same time. His stepdaughter's birthday was coming up, so he took money from my birthday fund to pay for that stuff, and so his stepdaughter would definitely get what she wanted. This Barbie house thing and a whole fashion set, and they were, I think Dad said, $250. He didn't get all the money back by the time my birthday came around, so instead he bought me a $30 gift card for Steam, when he had promised me a new monitor and keyboard for my computer. That was a gift from my grandparents. When my dad told me he wouldn't be at my graduation to go and support her, I told him there is no making up for that and he can forget about being included in my life going forward. He told me he would make it up to me, and I told him I will always come second to his little princess, and I'm not going to be okay with that. I told him he's discarded me for the last time. Dad begged me to be reasonable, but I walked away. Then I invited both sets of grandparents who agreed to come. His wife told me I could have come with them and I don't need to attend the ceremony but could support my sister. I said her daughter's not my sister and I do not want to support their family anymore, and I will be out of their hair soon. She called me selfish and told me I can't deny her daughter a dad. For our next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my family to shut up, get over themselves, and to accept that I never wanted my son to have the names they like? My wife, 25 years old female, and I, 26 years old male, welcomed our son Callum into the world just over a week ago. I had expected our son's name wouldn't be a favorite among my family, but I had believed and hoped they would just love us enough to accept that the name isn't one of the more vintage, old-timey names my family loves. But they expressed their dislike for the name immediately, and were asked to leave by me because my wife was in recovery and didn't need to deal with their bullshit. They called me up the next day and asked why we had gone so different from the rest of the family. I told them we went with a name we both loved and felt would work for our son his entire life. My family told me Callum is not the kind of name a person should wear into adulthood. That it ages terribly because it sounds like a little boy's name. I told them Callum is a well-established and long-used name, just not in the way they like for names to be. They told me Callum does not compare to the names my nieces and nephews have, or that my siblings have. I used to have another name and changed it at 18. So before I get too carried away, I should say that the types of names my family like are Reginald, Harold, Desmond, Bartholomew, Maximilian, Clarence, and my old name Herbert. Girls' names are the same old school style. My family loves that. I'm good with that. I wasn't good with my old name and changed it, and I didn't want a name for my son that fit with them. I told my family as they were complaining to me that we had decided and the name was not changing, so they should adjust to it. They were quiet for a day, and then they got back in touch to say they could not bring themselves to accept this, and that I should really consider why they love the names they do. They said I damned myself when I changed my name, which is now Jamie, but I shouldn't do that to my son. When I didn't budge, they declared they would talk to my wife. I told them no way in hell are they bothering my wife with their crap when she's newly PP. We got into a fight and I told them to stop calling if they couldn't let it go. They showed up yesterday to see our son again, and I wasn't going to let them inside, but my wife, who knows what's been going on, thought maybe seeing Cal again would calm them down. It didn't. They started on the name shit again, and they did attempt to go through my wife, which is when I may have stepped over the line. I told them to shut up and get over themselves about the name because my wife and I love it and we're not changing it for them, and they need to accept I never wanted my son or any kids I'd have to have names they like. I told them they knew that from the time I went to the effort and cost to change my own name. And I told them they had gone too far trying to pester my wife after being warned not to. They said I didn't need to be so rude to get my point across, and I believe I did. But I'm also doubting if I went too far. Let's dive into our next story. Am I the a-hole for leaving dinner because my sister was late, again? Not the a-hole. I, a 27-years-old male, had plans to go out to dinner with my sister, a 30-years-old female, as we do every month. She lives in my hometown and I live in the next state over with my BF. We're about 35 minutes to an hour apart depending on traffic. We agreed to meet closer to hometown with my mom. One thing about her, she is always late. I expect she'll always be at least 30 minutes late, but it's been up to a few hours. And not just random plans, weddings and graduations too. It's been brought up in the past by Mom and I, but she always brushes it off and gets upset. My BF drove me over. I can't drive, and he offered to drop me before he had to head out for plans of his own near home and come back when he was done. I assumed after dinner we would just hang out at her house either way. Get to the place and start calling my sister. She usually doesn't say if she's going to be late, but if my mom is with her she does, and I hadn't heard anything. I get Mom a few minutes later, and she says they're behind because it took a while to get my nephew, who's almost one, ready, and my sister got in the shower later than expected. I didn't even know my nephew was coming, and she usually tells me if he is. Her husband was apparently there to let Mom in when she showed up, but went back to sleep as soon as she got there. Not sure why he couldn't help get baby ready, but that's none of my business. I check maps and it says 35 minutes, adding in getting baby strapped and secure, and then putting him in either the stroller or front carrier on her body. I was looking at 40 minutes. To top it off, we had reservations. She made the reservation, not me. I had never been to this place and didn't know if it was one of those places that don't let you have the table if your whole group isn't there. There was really no space to wait inside and I'd have to stand outside. Anyway, I didn't feel like sitting alone for 40 minutes even if I could. She doesn't keep her friends waiting this long when they make plans. I don't get why it's okay to do this to me and Mom. I'm speaking to Mom as they're trying to change the reservation online. At that point I was fed up. If we agree to be there at a certain time, be there. 5 or 10 minutes late is fine, but not this. I told Mom I was going back home. I didn't feel like fuming at the table and acting like I wasn't mad when they got there, as I'd done before. She sounded hurt and mad, but said fine, and that she would go home too. Since then, I haven't spoken to my sister. It's been a few weeks, and Mom doesn't want to get in the middle. But I told her I wasn't speaking to her until I get an apology. Mom told her she can't keep doing this on their ride back home and agrees it's an issue, but won't say much else. It's ridiculous to just always be late because you're bad at time management. She also wants to use the "it takes long to get a baby ready" excuse, which I would accept if it wasn't for the fact that this has been a problem long before my nephew was born or even a thought. So, am I the a-hole? Our last story for today. Am I the a-hole for asking my friends what flavor their wedding cake is? I, a 22-years-old female, am in the wedding party of my friends. We will call M, a 25-years-old female, and Ro, a 25-years-old male, who will be getting married in about 2 months. I have been really excited for the wedding since it'll be an opportunity for all the friends from college to get together for the first time in 2 years. Not to mention M and Ro are my best friends, or at least I thought they were. We have a Discord for all the wedding stuff, and they have a channel about food. They've been really good about being open about the food they intend to have at the reception, including vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free options for everyone, and answering questions, so I didn't think there would be any contention if I asked a question. Anyway, about 4 days ago I posted a message into the Discord asking, "Hey, what flavor is the cake gonna be? I want to mentally prepare myself, LOL. I think looking back my choice of extra words is what caused all this, but I meant it in the sense that I have a long documented dislike of chocolate-flavored foods like cake or ice cream. So I added it in the event the cake was chocolate. I received a private message back that the cake would be chocolate, and that if I had a problem with it, then I could shove it cause it was their wedding, not mine. And I felt really taken aback by this response. Never did I mention that I would have been upset, and I certainly wouldn't have put up a stink about it. It's exactly like M had said, it's their wedding. I explained as much and tried to apologize for any offending I did, but she got even more defensive and started basically blasting me for implying that she was offended, and I was just left overall very confused. I gave it 2 days before I tried to apologize again and smooth it over, figuring she may have just been having a bad day, but I got shut down again telling me she didn't need my apology. 'Cause nothing was wrong, and I needed time to stop trying to make it seem like shit was wrong between us, and to just drop it. I texted Ro to see if I could gauge what was going on, since he and I have always had an open dialogue about things like this, but he basically just told me he couldn't talk to me right now, and I have to imagine it's 'cause I'm told him not to. It's been 2 days since then and I'm just really confused. This whole thing has made me want to drop out of the wedding party and honestly not go at all. I wish Ro would talk to me and M would be honest. I can't help but think maybe I just don't get how stressful planning a wedding is, and like maybe they've gotten pushback from other people on other things, and somehow it's being taken out on me? Or is it really a big no-no to ask stuff like this? I don't know. This is the first wedding I'll have ever gone to, so am I the asshole? And those are all the stories we have for today. See you tomorrow.